Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers got a nice win to start their last homestand before the All-Star break. Michael Grove pitched because Clayton Kershaw went on the injured list. We'll talk about the Dodgers' plan with Kershaw on the IL. Talk about the team win, really good team win, and especially the bottom of the lineup and the bullpen really coming through for the Dodgers. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. My co-host is Vince Samperio. We are doing a split episode today, so I'll be with you for the first half of the episode. Vince will wrap it up at the end. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. And with that said, let's jump right in. Before we get to the game, though, Dodgers did beat the Pirates 5-2 to open the series. A really good game that we'll talk a lot about. But first, the big news before the game was what we talked a lot about on yesterday's episode. Clayton Kershaw going on the injured list. Seemed like a foregone conclusion at this point. We had an email from one of our listeners, Ken Rosenberg, who's not the same person as Ken Rosenthal, as far as I know. Ken Rosenberg is a doctor, and he had emailed us the other day, and he said, I hope the Dodgers are waiting until Kershaw is named to the All-Star team before shutting him down. We don't know why he needed the cortisone shot in his left shoulder, but it means that he has some kind of inflammation. The treatment for inflammation is rest. He absolutely should not pitch in his remaining regular season rotation turn, and he absolutely should not pitch in the All-Star game. And that was kind of where we came down to, and not surprisingly, it's where the Dodgers came down to. Kershaw said he was bummed about it. His son, Charlie, was into it, was getting excited about it. So obviously hard for Kershaw as a dad to disappoint his son, but they can still go take part in all the festivities. It just means Kershaw won't pitch in the game. He's still an all-star. He will still be there in Seattle with his family. In fact, maybe Charlie can enjoy it more because his dad doesn't have to worry about getting ready to pitch that day. And so he can just be all-star dad, which Kershaw clearly is. And other than the fact that Kershaw might have had a chance to be the starter in the All-Star game, it's not that big a deal. And Kershaw did get to start last year's All-Star game. And so it's not like that's something that he's never done before anymore. It's a good time. And Dave Roberts kind of made this point that as far as timing goes, when you have a spot where the Dodgers have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off next week, when you have a 5-day break anyway, that's a really good time to put a pitcher on the 15-day injured list, because basically Kershaw will miss, depending on what they were going to do, 1 or 2 starts, really, because he was supposed to pitch on Monday night and he didn't. So he's obviously missed that start. Dodgers don't play on Sunday before the All-Star break, and so regular rest would have had Kershaw pitching on Saturday in their last game before the All-Star break, but they've also been trying to do extra rest, so it's not crazy that they might have gone with a 6-man rotation anyway. And so maybe it's just the one start, because Kershaw will be eligible. They backdated the IL stint to the 30th. And so he'll be eligible to come off the injured list on the 15th, which is, I believe, that Saturday. Saturday. So the second game after the All-Star break, Kershaw's eligible to come off the injured list. So realistically, he's missing 1, maybe 2 starts, and then he's ready to come back second day back from the All-Star break, assuming that he is healthy. And he said, he was, the way he said it, he wasn't even totally convinced that he needed to go on the IL. If they'd had the luxury of taking a couple more days, he thinks he would have been able to start in a couple days. Obviously, with the way the Dodgers rotation is right now, they don't have that luxury. With the way their bullpen is overworked, all that stuff, they didn't have the luxury of trying to piece things together while they figure it out for Kershaw. And so, he and Roberts both acknowledged it's a great time to take a little IL break. For his personal stats, missing 1 or 2 starts isn't the end of the world. Hopefully he gets the rest he needs, and he can, and it'll end up being, it's 15 days, but it'll really end up being what, 17, 18 days, because since the last time he started. So hopefully he'll be back, and the rest of the season, it won't be an issue. We don't really know. We'll have to wait and see, but there's plenty of reason for optimism. And I am very glad, as much as I love Clayton Kershaw, I'm very glad the Dodgers took this route. I was sure they would. A lot of people tend to assume the worst and be pessimistic, but for me, it seems like they're actually pretty good at this kind of thing. They're not great at telling the media the truth about what's going on with somebody. I'm okay with that. I get the media has a job to do, but I'm also fine with Dave Roberts, either purposely or accidentally giving false information once in a while, not giving any real information, all that stuff, whatever. But I'm glad that Kershaw is getting the break he needs, and hopefully it will lead to a solid second half. In the meantime, Michael Grove started on Monday. They also called up Gavin Stone. In addition to putting Kershaw on the IL, they also sent Victor Gonzalez down to the minors. Hopefully Vic can figure something out back in AAA. They had said that Stone might get in the game on Monday if Grove couldn't go deep, but Grove ended up going 4 innings, which I guess was deep enough. So they went to Caleb Ferguson, Ryan Brazier, Bruce Dark-Gratterall, Daniel Hudson, and Evan Phillips for an inning each. Is that right? Yeah, 5 relievers, an inning each to finish off the game. So Gavin Stone is still out there available, and whether they go with him in a start sometime or if they keep him, because you've got Emmett Sheehan and Bobby Miller coming up the next 2 days. Both of them are rookies. Both of them hopefully will go, 5 or 6 innings, but either of them is capable of, blowing up and needing a piggyback. So maybe they just keep Stone in reserve. And if they don't have to use Stone in either of those games, well, and then we got Julio on Thursday. And honestly, after Julio's last start, there's no guarantee there either. So Gavin Stone is actually some decent insurance for the next 3 days to provide some ultra long relief in case it's necessary. If it's not, then maybe he gets the start on Saturday, or lot of options with Gavin Stone back in the big leagues. He was supposed to start on Sunday for AAA, and they scratched him for that, knowing that they might need him in the big leagues, which they ended up calling him up. It's also possible they send him back down if they get through these next couple of days without needing him and get the bullpen reset. Maybe they send him back down and to keep starting. A lot of things they could do, but the nice thing is they only have 5 more games left before the All-Star break. So basically, now that they got through Monday, they need to get through the rotation one more time, and then it's the All-Star break where they have 5 days off, which will let a lot of people rest and get things reset. Hopefully, get Kershaw healthy. Yeah, and we couldn't ask for much more from Michael Grove than what he gave on Monday. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to talk more about the win and the team win later on. Vince will talk about specifically the bottom of the lineup and the bullpen coming through. So, thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, I am back. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. I also want to remind you that you can catch the hometown radio broadcast of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just launch the app and search for Dodgers. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app. Just search for Locked On Dodgers. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. If you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to hear from you through Facebook. We don't have a Facebook group. Sorry. I'm old, but not that old, through social media or email or whatever. And let's jump back in. Let's talk about the Dodgers a little bit more. Like I said, Dodgers won 5-2 in the series opener. Michael Grove went 4 innings, allowed just 1 run. It wasn't as clean as that sounds. He had allowed 5 hits and 2 walks, and hit a guy, I think. Jack Sawinski, got hit twice, once by Grove. So Grove allowed 8 base runners in his 4 innings. So a little bit of luck involved in only allowing the 1 run. He got a big double play. He got a out at home on a contact play where probably ill-advised for the Pirates to run the contact play with Carlos Santana on third base. He's not the fleetest of foot. He was out from me to you, as Vin Scully would have said. So maybe a little bit of luck. And it took Grove, 79 pitches to get through his 4 innings. You know what? They're happy enough with that, because he did get through that. He did get the outs when he needed to, made the pitches that he needed to make. And all they could have hoped for from him. And then, like I said, 5 relievers came in. Ryan Brazier did give up a run. He didn't pitch poorly. He unfortunately he walked a dude, and that came back to bite him. Walks will do that, and a walk and a couple of hits, but he did strike out a couple guys. Everybody else was pretty clean. Daniel Hudson allowed 1 base runner. Evan Phillips allowed a base runner, but got a double play. And all in all, like a really good team win. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the top of the lineup because, like I said, Vince is going to talk about the bottom of the lineup and the bullpen in more specifics. But Max Muncy hit a home run. It was big. He went 2 for 4. He did strike out the 2 times he didn't get hits, but he did get 2 hits. He had a home run and a base hit. And it's hard to complain too much about any game for Max Muncy that includes 2 hits and a home run. It would be nice to see Muncy get on track. After the game, the media was talking to Muncy, and somebody asked him how he would grade his first half of the season overall. And Muncy said pretty poor. Basically, he said, I've hit a lot of home runs, but other than that, I haven't hit nearly as well as I know I can. He said, I know I'm still a very good hitter, and so I need to get back to that. And so he said he's been working hard, making tweaks, trying to get back to being not just a guy who can run into one once in a while, but a guy who is really a legitimately great hitter. His batting average is up to 195 now. And his OPS is still 790. So it's still above average OPS with the 195 batting average. But if he could even get that up to 240, it would be huge for him and for the Dodgers to not be hit, all or nothing, to actually get some singles once in a while. And if he's making better contact, he's also going to get more home runs. And so I don't think it's crazy to think that Muncy could have a pretty big second half, end up with 35 to 40 home runs on the season. He's at 19 right now. And maybe get that batting average up to around 240. That would be huge for the Dodgers. It's definitely at the top of his mind. He's not satisfied with where he's at, which is good. Other than that, Freddie Freeman had a hit and scored a run. Will Smith had a hit and scored a run. They both had hits in a rally inning where the Dodgers they did get some insurance runs and get some runs that they needed. So that was big. Mookie Betts continued to, ever since that 4-hit game, on base all 6 times on Friday night, he's struggled a little bit the last 2 games against the Royals and this first game against the Pirates. But 3 games of struggling doesn't really tell you that much. All in all, the big key was getting back in the win column. The Diamondbacks had the day off on Monday, and so Dodgers pick up a half a game on the Diamondbacks. I'm just scrolling through the scores right now. I haven't even checked. I know the Padres beat the Angels. I'm not too worried about the Padres these days. Ooh, the Giants lost again, which means the Dodgers now have a bigger lead on the Giants. Dodgers now a game and a half ahead of the Giants, 2.5 behind the Diamondbacks. And so that's big. The Giants hopefully will continue to stumble, and it can just be the D-backs the Dodgers have to worry about. But, all in all, it's this Dodgers team has been frustrating at times. But I think it's important that we remember as Dodger fans what it was like, last year. No struggles during the regular season, hardly. They just kept winning, and then they didn't win when it mattered. Doesn't mean you can't win when it matters if you have a great regular season. In fact, the better the team is, the better your chances are of having a great regular season, and the better your chances are in the postseason. But what we've learned many times over the last decade is that regular season success doesn't necessarily translate to postseason success. And sometimes it'll translate to a whole lot of postseason success, but not the ultimate success. Sometimes the other team will cheat because they have no morals and they're worthless human beings, and they cost you a World Series that way. Sometimes you just run into a better team in the postseason. Sometimes the manager messes up. So many things can happen. But as much as I've preached over the last many years to enjoy the regular season, as a baseball fan, it's the 6 months of baseball, the 7 months of baseball that we get that I love. And yeah, in October, I'm fully invested in the Dodgers winning it all. But I really do think there's a lot of value in the regular season, the long regular season, the beauty of watching baseball every night. I love it. And this year, we're kind of seeing the flip side of that, where the regular season so far, it's had its fun moments, but hasn't been as fun as the last few years. And hopefully they can turn it around in the second half and we can get more of that fun. But maybe this is the year where the regular season is a battle and they come into the postseason hungry and they do win it that way. That's more like how the 88 Dodgers were. When I was 11 years old, it was not a dominant team. They did win their division, but it wasn't a dominant team. Then they beat two teams in the postseason who were a lot better than them, and that's fine. 2020, Dodgers were the best team in baseball in the regular season. Then they were the best team in baseball in the postseason. However they get a World Series title, I will take it. But I hope you guys are enjoying the season, even when it is frustrating, because it's still baseball. It's not like we're watching something worse like football or golf or whatever. Football and golf both have their place, but they're no baseball. So enjoy the regular season. Hopefully we can close out the first half with a 6-game winning streak against the Pirates and Angels, maybe catch up to the D-backs before the All-Star break, but at least go into the All-Star break ready to enjoy the physical break and come out swinging after the break too. All in all, yeah, good game for the Dodgers. And like I said, Vince is going to talk to you about the bottom of the lineup and the bullpen both coming through big. So that's going to do it for me. And Vince will be along in a minute.
Yo, Dodger fans. Vince here to close out the episode. And here to talk, like Jeff mentioned, about the bottom of the lineup and about the bullpen. We'll start with the lineup, and we'll talk about 3 guys specifically, and 3 guys that had hits last night in that bottom part of the lineup, and that's Peralta, Heyward, and Miguel Rojas. Miguel Vargas did not get a hit. He struck out 3 times. He's still struggling. That conversation will only continue to grow the more we move forward with him. And if he doesn't, start figuring it out, the Dodgers are going to have to decide something. But with Peralta, Heyward, and Rojas, it's, a trend of them being pretty good at hitting for a couple guys, for Peralta and Heyward over the last month, for Rojas more so over the last couple weeks, but still over the last month, better than he was over the entire season. Peralta, any way you look at it, last week, he's hitting 478 with an OPS nearing or over 1,000. You look over the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 370 with an 878 OPS. And you look over the last month, he's hitting 376 with an OPS over 900. So any way you slice it, David Peralta has been good. Pretty much since May started, he's been good. Now it's been a couple months of solid production. On the season, he's up to 290 with the 746 OPS. He picked up the power a little bit in the month of June. Jeff had kind of mentioned how we talked about him at the end of the May and how he was hitting well, but power wasn't quite there. He only had 2 home runs up to that point heading into June. And then in June, he had 3 home runs. So he's up to 5 home runs on the year. So, still not a huge power source, but he's starting to get there, starting to get up. His slugging percentage has continued to rise as the season goes on. And, with him, he's not one to walk much. His average is 290 and his on-base percentage is 326. So, not huge guy that walks, but he also doesn't strike out that often. He's only struck out 15 times in the last 30 games and 93 at-bats. So, he's a guy that's going to put the ball in play, and putting the ball in play is starting to have some good effects on him because he's starting to hit the ball a little bit better, a little bit harder. So, Peralta's been huge for the Dodgers, and we talked about it earlier in the year when they were kind of deciding and thinking about moving Mookie into the infield a little bit more. And we had said, like, it's going to open up those at-bats for Peralta and Heyward, and if they can hold it down, then, Mookie has a little bit more free reign to play in the infield. Of course, this was when Outman was good, so we thought, the Dodgers would be able to handle it. Outman has struggled, and Trace is not on the team right now. But either way, the Dodgers can hold it down and are overall better. Outman's, even how bad he's been, he's still a better hitter than Rojas. So when it's Outman, Heyward, Peralta in the outfield, and Mookie at short, the Dodgers still get a benefit there. When Mookie plays second and Vargas hits, even Rojas is a little bit of an upgrade over Vargas right now in terms of hitting. So that's the way it goes. And, Peralta has taken advantage of all the extra ABs and all the playing time. And, he's done well. And so is Jason Heyward. You look at Heyward, and it's similar to Peralta. Anyway, you slice it over the last 30 games. You go last 7 games, he's hitting 400 with an OPS over 1,000. You go last 15 games, he's hitting 300 with an OPS 870. And you go over the last 30 games, and he's at 301 with an OPS just under 900. So these guys have been playing well. They're playing, they're hitting well. They're performing, and they've been able to keep the Dodgers offense going. We know Mookie, Mookie's going to get his. Freddie's going to get his. Will Smith's going to get his. Even though he's had a little bit of a struggle lately, J.D. Martinez still going to get his for the most part. And then Max Muncy is kind of hit or miss right now, but Jeff talked about him earlier. But, Heyward and Peralta have been those guys that have been able to come through. And they don't come through all the time, but they come through enough. And obviously, they're hitting well overall. And the thing is, they're getting put into positions to succeed. They're facing mostly right-handed pitching, and and they're performing well with that. And Heyward is a guy who's performing better than he has almost as his entire career, and he's got an 830 OPS. He's only had a higher OPS in his career twice. Once in 2020 and once in 2010, which was his rookie year. So he's turning back the clock. He's turning well, and he's rewarding the Dodgers. And Freddie Freeman, to a certain extent, for getting him over here. Peralta, wanted to be part of a winner. And it's kind of ironic that now the Dodgers are chasing the Diamondbacks currently in the standings, since Peralta was on there for so long. But, he's coming through. And then the other guy is Rojas, who, Rojas is still not that guy that you're going to, oh, man, he's such a good hitter. But he's hitting a lot better than he was. He had a couple hits last night, drove in a run. And with him, it's not quite. He doesn't have any power, and so when you look at his OPS, he doesn't walk much, doesn't have much power, So his slugging is not quite there. But if you go over the last set, you go just a batting average with him, basically. Over the last 7 games, 261. Over the last 2 weeks, 295. Over the last 30 games, 265. On base percentage varies from range there, but. The slugging percentage, not over 400 in any of those. He doesn't have any home runs on the season. He hasn't had any power, but they don't need power from him realistically. It would be a benefit, and it would be, obviously anything they can take, anything they can get, they'll take. But with him and, holding down shortstop is more important defensively. But now he's starting to contribute offensively and, giving the Dodgers at least a threat there at the bottom of the lineup, because for a while he wasn't a threat. He's even on the year with the numbers I just said, 265 over the last month, he's still at 236 over the entire season. Like it's going to take him a while to get that counting stats up to where we want it. But, the Dodgers don't care about the entire season at this point. They care about what, the next game, and what he's been doing for them over the last month or so has been positive. It's been what they need from the situation that was created with Gavin Lux's injury before the season started. And, the Dodgers can look for, there's a wide variety of ways the Dodgers can attack the trade deadline, and Miguel Rojas hitting a little bit better helps them. I don't think shortstop right now is as big as, we need a shortstop. We need a hitter, and essentially, as long as he doesn't play first, DH, or catcher, the Dodgers can be looked for any hitter, because if he plays shortstop, fine. Rojas goes more into a utility role. That's completely fine. If he plays second base, Miguel Vargas is struggling. They'll figure it out, but they can find a guy that plays second base. If they do happen to find a third baseman, Max Muncy can always go back to second base, and they can have a platoon with, I don't know if they platoon Muncy, but with Vargas, he might start losing some playing time, just for a simple fact of the Dodgers, they gave him half a season, didn't quite work out. Now we're playing for trying to win the division, and if they find an outfielder, then they find an outfielder, preferably one. Actually, it doesn't really matter because Heyward can play center field, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a center fielder. It can be anybody that plays outfield, and then Mookie can play a little bit more infield, and they can work things around there. So, I think Rojas being capable hitter, somebody that's at least a threat, put the ball in play, base hit, single. It does, at some point it doesn't really matter as long as you're getting base hits. The Dodgers aren't looking for 30 home runs out of that spot right now. They're looking for a decent enough average and a decent enough threat at the plate that makes it look fine when these guys are going through a lineup, especially when Austin Barnes has to play. And for a while, the bottom of the lineup was kind of struggling. If it was Outman and Vargas and Rojas and Barnes, none of those guys were hitting for a while. Outman's starting to get a little bit better. Vargas still struggling, but Rojas is starting to put the ball in play, starting to get base hits, and starting to look better. And then Barnes, he got his one hit the other day, so maybe that'll propel him forward the next time he gets a start. But yeah, bottom of the lineup came through, and then I was going to talk about the bullpen, but the bottom of the lineup part ended up taking a while. But the bullpen. Gratterall, Hudson, Phillips, last 3 innings, they allowed no hits, no runs, 1 walk, just the 1 strikeout, which is obviously, always going to be a little bit alarming when these guys aren't getting the strikeouts. But I think for Phillips, he's striking out enough this year to where you're not concerned. Hudson's getting his way back. He is the one that had to strike out. So, but he's still working his way back. And then, Gratterall hasn't been much of a strikeout guy, but has continued to be well. Jeff Brazier did give up the run, but for the most part, he's been a guy that's been able to get some strikeouts. He got a couple strikeouts. Caleb Ferguson had a couple strikeouts in his inning. So, this is what the path to success for the Dodgers is bottom of the order, contributing on top of the order, being the top of the order, and then, the bullpen doing their job in their 1 inning. If they try to do too much or too more, it's tougher, but doing the job in the inning. And now it's important the next 2 days for Sheehan and for Bobby Miller to get some length, so ideally not Phillips, Hudson, or Gratterall, maybe only one has to throw on Tuesday. The offense puts up a lot of runs and the starting pitching goes deep and they don't have to worry about it. So that's the path to success for the Dodgers. And, hopefully we get to see a lot more. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Dodgers on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Become an everydayer by listening every day. Tell your friends, tell your family. You can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincents91. DMs are open on all those accounts. You can get a hold of us there. You can get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Text My Advice Play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.